Built into our DNA, built into human nature, is the desire for power. I want you to not feel guilty. I want you to not feel bad about it. I want you to simply sit down and accept this simple fact. So one thing I had to come to terms with when I wrote the 48 Laws of Power was this own sense of guilt that I felt about discussing these things, because there's kind of a taboo aura around it. Like, we might discuss very ins and outs of our sexual proclivities, etc., or about money. But when it comes to power and our desires for power and our ambition, nobody likes to talk about it. We're all kind of in denial. And so there are people who look at the 48 Laws of Power and they go, ew, that's not me. I'm not interested in that at all. What an ugly book. Let's get rid of it, etc. And then there are, of course, people who love the 48 Laws of Power go, yeah, that's exactly my game. I'm going to maybe learn some more from it. But the thing is, I try to make the point, which I talk about in the introduction and in the month of May that you'll be diving into, is that built into our DNA, built into human nature, is the desire for power. I want you to not feel guilty. I want you to not feel bad about it. I want you to simply sit down and accept this simple fact. And you're thinking of power, you're thinking of Henry Kissinger and Barack Obama and Donald Trump and world leaders. It has nothing to do with that. Power is an everyday thing. The sense that you have no control or power over your children, no matter what you say, they won't listen to you, they just rebel. The feeling that you can't influence your spouse, that they have some irritating behavior that you can't try and make them aware of and change. The feeling that your colleagues and your boss, you can't get them interested in your ideas, you have no power, you have no influence in them, you're just this sort of helpless pawn in the universe, is miserable. It's deeply miserable for the human animal. We are the animal that likes to have a degree of control. Look at the world that we've created, and it reveals this tremendous need for a degree of control over our environment, over other people, etc. So I want you to admit this fact that with your children, your spouse, your colleagues, your boss, etc., you want some of that power, you want some of that control, you want the ability to influence them. So stop the denial, stop playing these silly games. But the other thing is to understand that there are people in the world who pretend that they're not interested in power. There are so many of them you can't believe. They're everywhere. They're in all different cultures, all different parts of an organization. They're everywhere. They pretend that the power is the last thing they want. They're so pious, they're so good, they're so saintly, that's there's nothing to do with them, right? And they are the worst players in power. They are often among the most manipulative people you will ever meet in your life. So the people who are the most adamant that they are not interested in power are often the ones who play the most passive-aggressive games of power. Because, as I said, as we return to this point, it is deeply ingrained in our nature to want this, to want to have it. And so if we deny it consciously to ourselves, if we say, I don't want it, unconsciously, we will do all of these games. A lot of them. passive aggressive. And if you've read my books, you know that I am obsessed with passive aggression. I wrote a chapter about it in 33 Strategies of War, and I devoted an entire chapter of it in the Laws of Human Nature, because so many people nowadays, they're not aggressive, but they're very passive aggressive. They know how to whine and complain and make other people feel guilty, all the while they're the ones that are in control of the situation. So I want you to accept this idea that you yourself have ambition, you have desires for power. There is nothing wrong with it. It's actually you're being human to admit that you have this desire. And the second thing is to be deeply, deeply suspicious and aware of those people who pretend they have no desire for it. It's the last thing they're interested in. You will find often that they're the ones that are riddled with all kinds of feelings of envy, and they will play these poisonous games that I outline in all of my books. So if someone comes upon you, let's say in your office or you're hiring them, and you go to yourself, it's almost too good to be true. This person almost seems too saintly, too good, too perfect, too charming, too pleasing. It's wonderful. I guess I'll hire them. I want you to have a little click to go on in your brain and go, step back. Little warning sign should go up. They might be one of these non-players, that they have learned to wear the front of being so pleasing, so charming, so political, so much, a team player, etc. That's the disguise they wear. You bring them into your life, you make them a partner, associate, you hire them, and 6 months down the road, you see them playing all of these weird, little curvy, devious games. So don't be taken in by the front, and be aware that people who are the most in denial of it are often the worst players in the game of power.